All right, ready to dive deep. Today we're cracking open The Millionaire Next Door, a book that really flips the script on how we think about wealth in America.
Yeah, it's amazing how this book, with all those interviews and surveys, shows that millionaires aren't who we think they are. Not mansions and sports cars, more like they could be our neighbors, living pretty normal lives, actually.
Exactly. It's not about some magic formula. It's more about the mindset, right?
Hmm.
Those everyday habits and choices that build real, lasting wealth.
Totally. And the way Stanley and Danko debunk those common myths about millionaires,
Mhm.
like take the idea that they're all earning huge salaries or spending tons of money, the data shows something totally different.
Okay, so spill the beans. What are some of those surprising facts that shatter the millionaire stereotype?
Well, check this out. The typical millionaire's priciest suit, under 400 bucks. Lots of them shop at JCPenney. And get this, half of them never spent more than $235 on a watch. Like imagine your neighbor with a Timex sitting on a seven-figure portfolio.
It's almost like a secret club hiding in plain sight. But that makes you wonder, if they're not flashing their cash, what is the secret to their success?
It boils down to one word: frugality. It's a core value for these millionaires. The book calls it playing great defense with your money, not being cheap, but smart about your choices.
So it's more like a mindful way of spending rather than just being stingy.
Exactly. It's about making the most of your savings and investments by being in control of your spending, like building a solid foundation.
And the book is big on having a partner who's on the same page, right? Like a frugal spouse. They say a big spender can totally wreck even the best plans for building wealth.
There's this story, a millionaire's wife who kept clipping coupons even after her husband gave her $8 million in stock. Talk about dedication to frugality.
Wow, that's putting your money where your mouth is. So they're frugal, but is that the whole story? What about things like budgeting? Do millionaires even bother with that?
Oh, absolutely. They're actually really meticulous about it. Most of them live on a budget, carefully tracking their spending and planning for future investments. Totally different from those who, well, the book calls them underaccumulators of wealth. The type where spending outruns earning, so there's nothing left to save.
Makes you think, huh? Does your household have a budget?
Yeah.
Do you even know where all your money goes each month? Everyone should be asking themselves these questions, right?
Definitely something to consider. And The Millionaire Next Door has this great case study about a guy named Mr. Denzi who started investing when he was just 22. Consistent saving, smart investments, he ended up way richer than classmates who were earning way more than him. Shows the power of starting early and sticking with it.
Okay, so frugality and budgeting are huge. But let's be honest, some people think becoming a millionaire is all about luck or winning the lottery.
That's where the book really challenges our assumptions. It's a long game. And these millionaires are strategic with how they use their time, energy, and yeah, their money. Investment planning is a big priority.
Speaking of investing, we got to talk about how they actually put their money to work. Are we picturing Wall Street gurus glued to spreadsheets all day?
You'd be surprised. The book calls them PAWs, prodigious accumulators of wealth. And guess what? PAWs only spend, on average, 8 hours a month planning their finances.
Wait, 8 hours? That's it. Seems kind of low for people managing so much wealth.
It's not about how long you spend, but about being consistent. Regular planning, checking their investments, and this is key, working with financial advisors they trust.
So finding the right advisor is a big deal.
Huge. The book says millionaires aren't just picking names out of a hat. They rely on recommendations, they build relationships with advisors who really get their goals. There's even a story about a guy, Mr. Martin, who would only work with advisors recommended by his CPA. Talk about trust.
It sounds like a solid network of professionals is essential. But sometimes, even with good intentions, things can get tricky with money. The book also gets into what they call economic outpatient care, right?
Right, that's when parents give big financial gifts to their adult kids. And what's interesting is that the data actually shows that those who get these gifts often end up with less wealth than those who don't.
Hold on, really. You'd think getting a financial head start would set you up for success, wouldn't it?
It makes sense, but the authors say it can actually create a sense of dependence, almost like it stunts those crucial financial skills. Like, if you're always getting bailed out, you don't learn to earn and save on your own, right? And that can have a long-term impact.
Almost like a sense of entitlement instead of developing that financial grit that millionaires seem to have.
Exactly. They contrast two guys, Henry, the frugal teacher we talked about, and Josh, a lawyer making good money but always struggling financially because he spends too much and relies on his parents. Shows you money doesn't automatically equal wealth. right? A big income is great, but if you don't have good habits to manage it, you're not going to build lasting wealth.
Right.
So what's the takeaway for parents who want to help their kids financially but not create that dependence? Well, the book has some pretty surprising advice.
Okay, I'm all ears. What do they suggest?
One of the most interesting things they say is don't tell your kids you're wealthy.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah.
Why would you keep that a secret? Seems strange, right?
They think that knowing about their parents' wealth can make kids feel entitled, and they might not learn the value of hard work and responsibility with money.
Almost like it becomes this safety net, you know? It
Mm.
might stop them from developing that drive and resilience you need to succeed, not just with money, but in life.
Exactly. And there are tons of stories in the book from millionaires who had no idea their parents were wealthy until they were adults. Their parents lived simply, focused on hard work, and never bragged about their money.
Wow. That really shows how important it is to set a good example rather than just giving handouts. So besides not revealing their wealth, what other advice do they have for raising kids who are smart with money?
They say it's crucial to teach kids discipline and frugality when they're young, like is about the values, not just the money.
So things like involving kids in making a budget, encouraging them to save some of their allowance, teaching them the difference between wants and needs.
Exactly. It's about giving them the tools and knowledge to make good financial decisions throughout their lives. And there's this really interesting part about the importance of raising kids with a sense of achievement.
Oh, I like that. It's about giving them a sense of purpose, you know, more than just chasing money. Tell me more.
Well, they say parents should encourage their kids to follow their passions and aim high, not just focus on making money to buy stuff.
So it's like a growth mindset, right? Where
Yeah.
kids are motivated by learning, growing, and making a difference, not just getting more things.
Exactly. And they highlight how that kind of thinking can lead to financial success and a feeling of real satisfaction.
The Millionaire Next Door is packed with eye-opening stuff about wealth, frugality, and how America's millionaires really live. But maybe the biggest takeaway is the importance of values, hard work, and responsibility with money. Those are the real foundations of lasting wealth.
It reminds us that building wealth isn't about luck or getting rich quick. It's about making smart choices, forming good habits, and embracing a mindset of long-term growth and independence when it comes to finances.
And raising the next generation to be smart and responsible with money, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, let's leave you with this thought-provoking question from the book. If you could choose between looking wealthy and actually being wealthy, which would you pick and why?
It's a good one to think about. Food for thought, everyone. Welcome back. We're still digging into The Millionaire Next Door, uncovering all those surprising habits of these wealth builders. Now, let's talk about something most people think about when they picture someone with money. Cars.
Ah, yeah, the ultimate status symbol, right. You'd think millionaires would be driving around in the latest fancy models, but just like everything else, the millionaire next door kind of throws us a curveball when it comes to how these folks spend their money, even on cars.
So what are they driving? Beat-up old clunkers.
Not quite. The book takes a deep dive into their car buying habits, and you know what? There's no one-size-fits-all answer. They actually found 4 different types of millionaire car buyers.
Okay, now I'm really curious. Let's break it down. Tell me about these 4 types.
All right, so first up, we've got the new vehicle-prone dealer loyalists. These make up about 36% of the millionaires they talk to. What's interesting about this group is that they value convenience and familiarity. They're not the type to spend hours haggling or scouring the internet for the best deal.
So they're more about building a relationship with the specific dealership, right? Like trust is important.
Exactly. They stick with the same dealer, they value that relationship, and the ease of just going back to the same place. They're willing to pay a bit more for that convenience and peace of mind.
I can see that. Time is money, after all.
Mm.
Okay, what about the next type?
Next, we've got the new vehicle-prone shoppers, about 18% of the group. Now, these folks are a bit closer to what you might expect. They're price-conscious, they shop around for the best deal.
Ah, so they're the ones comparing prices, calling multiple dealerships, maybe even using those online car buying sites?
Yep, you got it. They put in the work to save money, but they still want to buy new. New car smell, the latest features, and that warranty, for peace of mind.
So frugal, but not willing to compromise on everything. Makes sense. What about the folks who'd rather buy used?
That brings us to the used vehicle-prone dealer loyalists, about 17% of the millionaires they studied. Now, this one might seem a bit contradictory, but these folks like the comfort of sticking with a dealer they know, but they're also really focused on getting a good value.
So they're calling up their trusted dealer and saying, hey, what good used cars do you have coming in?
Exactly. And you got to remember, a lot of these millionaires are business owners. They get the importance of relationships and giving back. They might even be sending customers to the dealership to get those good deals on used cars.
Pretty smart strategy. All right, last type. Tell me about them.
Last but not least, we've got the used vehicle-prone shoppers, around 19.5% of the millionaires in the study. Now, this group, they really embody frugality, like laser-focused on getting the absolute best deal no matter what.
So we're talking no fancy dealerships for this group. They're probably hitting up Craigslist, online auctions, maybe even those used car lots way out in the boonies.
They're willing to put in the time and effort to find that hidden gem, you know? And they're not afraid to negotiate, probably know the Kelly Blue Book like the back of their hand.
Some serious dedication. But the book makes a point of saying that these used car shoppers aren't just being cheap, they're incredibly disciplined in every part of their lives.
Absolutely. For them, frugality is a lifestyle, not just about cars. It's about clothes, furniture, everything. They live way below their means, and that's a big reason why they're able to build wealth.
It's funny how we often picture millionaires throwing money around on fancy stuff, but this book just completely flips that idea on its head. It's not about the bling, it's about making smart choices.
Right. The real millionaires, they're often the ones you don't even notice. Living modestly, quietly building their fortunes through those smart financial habits. And that includes how they buy their cars.
So whether you're into a brand new car or a reliable used one, the big takeaway is to be intentional about it. Don't get caught up in trying to impress anyone. Think about your goals and make choices that help you build wealth in the long run.
And never underestimate the power of negotiation. New or used, there's always room to get a better deal. But now, let's switch gears and talk about something that can be kind of tricky in families. Financial help from parents.
Yes, the good old bank of mom and dad. It's a tough one, right? How much help is too much? Can you actually spoil your kids with generosity? This is where the Millionaire Next Door really gets interesting.
One of the things they found, and it's pretty thought-provoking, is that adult kids who get big financial gifts from their parents actually tend to end up with a less wealth overall than those who don't.
Wait, seriously? You'd think getting a financial head start would set you up for more success, wouldn't you?
You would, but the authors say it can actually make people too dependent, and it kind of stops them from learning those important money skills. Like, if you never have to worry about earning or saving, you don't develop that discipline, right? And that can really affect you down the line.
It's like a false sense of security, you know? It might keep you from developing those financial muscles you need to succeed on your own.
Exactly. They talk about two brothers, Henry and Josh, to illustrate this point. Henry's the frugal teacher we talked about earlier, builds wealth through discipline and saving. Josh, he's a lawyer, making good money, but always struggling financially because he spends way too much and relies on his parents.
It's a classic example of how money doesn't automatically mean wealth. A big income is great, but if you're not handling it well and developing good habits, you're probably not going to achieve real, lasting financial success.
Right. So what's the advice for parents who want to help their kids financially but not create that dependence, you know? Well, the Millionaire Next Door actually has some pretty surprising suggestions.
Okay, lay it on me. What do they say?
One of the most interesting things they say is, don't tell your kids you're wealthy.
Hold on, what?
Yeah.
Seriously, why would you keep that a secret? It seems kind of strange.
Their thinking is that knowing about their parents' wealth can make kids feel entitled, and they might not learn to value hard work and being responsible with money.
Almost like it becomes this safety net, you know? They might not be as motivated to hustle and build their own wealth if they know they've got that backup.
Precisely. And there are all these stories in the book from millionaires who didn't even realize their parents were wealthy until they were grown up. Their parents lived modestly, emphasized the importance of hard work, and never showed off their money.
That's a powerful example of how setting a good example can be way more effective than just handing over money. So beyond keeping their wealth under wraps, what else do they suggest for raising kids who are good with money?
They really emphasize teaching kids discipline and frugality from a young age. It's about instilling those values, not just handing out cash.
Right, like those everyday habits that can really make a difference over time. Things like getting kids involved in making a budget, encouraging them to save a part of their allowance, teaching them the difference between wants and needs.
Exactly. Give them the tools and knowledge to make smart choices about money throughout their lives. And there's this whole fascinating section about the importance of raising kids with a sense of achievement.
I love that. It's about instilling a sense of purpose and accomplishment that goes beyond just financial success. Tell me more.
Well, they argue that parents should encourage their kids to follow their passions and strive for excellence, not just focus on making money to buy stuff.
Feels like a growth mindset, right? Where kids are motivated by learning, growing, and making a difference, not just accumulating more and more things.
Exactly. And they highlight how that kind of thinking can lead to both financial success and D, a feeling of real fulfillment.
The Millionaire Next Door, it's seriously packed with eye-opening insights about wealth, frugality, and how America's millionaires really live. But maybe the biggest takeaway is the importance of values, hard work, and responsibility with money. Those are the real foundations of lasting wealth.
It's a reminder that building wealth isn't about luck or getting rich quick. It's about making conscious choices, developing those solid financial habits, and embracing a mindset of long-term growth and independence when it comes to your finances.
And raising the next generation to be smart and responsible with money.
Absolutely. So, as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with that thought-provoking question from the book. If you could choose between looking wealthy and actually being wealthy, which would you pick and why?
It's a great one to think about. Food for thought, deep divers. Until next time. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're wrapping up our exploration of the Millionaire Next Door. And, one of the things that really struck me is this whole idea of financial help from parents. Like, how much is too much? Can you actually spoil your kids with generosity? It's something a lot of families struggle with, especially those who've done well financially.
Yeah, it's a tough one. You want to give your kids a leg up, but you don't want to create a situation where they're like totally dependent on you. And The Millionaire Next Door actually has some really interesting insights on this.
For sure. And one of the things that jumped out at me was this idea that statistically, adult children who get those big financial gifts from their parents actually end up with less wealth over time.
Yeah, and that seems counterintuitive, right? You'd think getting a financial head start would put you on the fast track to building wealth. But the authors make this point that it can actually hinder your long-term financial success.
So how does that even work? How could receiving financial help actually hurt you in the long run?
Well, they argue that it comes down to mindset and developing those essential financial habits. Like, if you're always getting bailed out, you don't really learn to earn and save on your own. And that can really have a long-term impact.
It's almost like it creates this false sense of security, preventing you from developing the financial muscles you need to really succeed on your own.
Exactly. And they use this example of two brothers, Henry, who's the frugal teacher we talked about earlier, and Josh, a lawyer who makes good money but is always struggling because he spends way too much and relies on his parents for help.
It's a classic example of how money doesn't automatically equal wealth. A high income is great, but if you're not managing it wisely and developing those solid financial habits, you're unlikely to achieve real, lasting financial success.
Exactly. So the big question is, what's the advice for parents who want to help their kids financially but not create that dependence? Well, The Millionaire Next Door actually offers some pretty specific and somewhat unconventional advice.
Okay, I'm all ears. What do they suggest?
One of the most interesting things they say is, don't tell your kids you're wealthy.
Wait, really? Why would you keep that a secret? That seems counterintuitive. Wouldn't it make sense to be transparent with your kids about your financial situation?
Their thinking is that if kids know their parents are wealthy, it can lead to a sense of entitlement, and they might not learn the value of hard work and responsibility with money.
It's almost like it creates this safety net, a cushion that prevents them from developing the drive and resilience that's often essential for financial success.
Exactly. And the book has all these anecdotes from millionaires who had no idea their parents were wealthy until they were adults. Their parents lived modestly, emphasized hard work, and never bragged about their money.
That's a powerful example of how leading by example can be way more impactful than just handing over money. So, besides not revealing their wealth, what other advice do they offer for raising financially responsible children?
They really stress the importance of teaching kids about discipline and frugality from a young age. It's about instilling values, not just providing financial resources.
So those everyday habits and practices that can make a difference over time, right?
Yeah.
Like involving kids and making a budget, encouraging them to save some of their allowance, teaching them about the difference between needs and wants.
Exactly. It's about equipping them with the tools and knowledge to make responsible choices about money throughout their lives.
I think one of the things I've taken away from The Millionaire Next Door is that it's not just about the money, it's about the mindset. It's about developing those core values of hard work, discipline, and making smart choices with your finances.
Absolutely. And it's about instilling those values in the next generation. It's about raising kids who are financially savvy, responsible, and, ready to build their own success.
I think this book really challenges our assumptions about wealth, and it offers a blueprint for achieving financial success that goes beyond just getting rich quick schemes. It's about building a life of meaning and purpose where financial security is a result of smart choices and a commitment to those core values we've been talking about.
Well said. It's a powerful message that resonates with people from all walks of life.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into The Millionaire Next Door, we want to leave you with that same thought-provoking question from the book. If you had to choose between looking wealthy and actually being wealthy, which would you pick and why?
It's a great question to ponder, deep divers. Until next time.